Someone says, I use because I'm lonely. Happened all the time. Why do you use? What are you feeling? What are you trying to get out of your using? I'm lonely. I'm lonely, so I drink because I'm lonely. We feel lonely fundamentally because our relationship with God is marred. God created you and I to be in intimate relationship with Him and with one another, and sin breaks those relationships. The biblical worldview has an answer for loneliness. Fundamentally, God, us being reconciled to Him, and God's own promises to us about who He is and about who we are. People who are addicted to heroin generally have a problem with peace, turmoil, PTSD, those sorts of things. They need peace. They need an overwhelming sense of peace, that everything is going to be okay. So what do? Go to God? God, who is the God of peace? No, they switch God for a functional Savior and a functional God that will give them what they think they need in God. Same thing with joy and pleasure. My drug of choice was ecstasy. That's what I thought I was getting. Ecstasy, joy, pleasure. I thought I was getting happiness. And it's amazing too, watch this. When you run and chase a false God for what you can only have in God, you always come back broken and hurting every time. I would chase the ecstasy for joy and pleasure, thinking that I could find satisfaction there, only to find the next day I was overwhelmed with a sense of guilt and shame and loneliness and darkness. I thought that there was true intimacy and fellowship within these communities and these after parties while I was rolling on tabs, rolling on E. I thought that there was real intimacy there. We were really friends. We would say things to each other while we were high that like there was so much love in this room. You know what I'm talking about, right? And it was amazing because I would find later that all those commitments we made to one another in these nights where we were taking ecstasy were all lies. It's a fiction. It was all fake. It was all built upon lies, guilt and shame. I came to this realization after a little while studying the scriptures that I was absolutely a wretch. I had nothing to offer God. I had completely destroyed my family, my own life. I was lying to everybody around me about who I was, and I was just overwhelmed with a sense of my own sin and shame. And here's the thing you got to hear. There wasn't a point, really, in all of this where I actually thought to myself, I'm a drug addict. Like I have the disease of addiction. I never thought anything like that. But the whole context of my thinking is it wasn't just the drugs and the alcohol. It was the sin, it was the lying, it was my rebellion against my own creator. It was my idolatry. It wasn't just drugs and alcohol. I just need to get sober. I realized that this is fundamentally my relationship with God. I am a sinner against a holy God. I was overwhelmed with a sense of my own guilt and shame, and so I nearly crawled into my closet. And I just started praying, and I can't recite exactly what the prayer was. There's no magic prayers. I just essentially pleaded with God to save me. I remember I said something like, "You're the boss. You tell me what to do. You rule my life." I said to God, I have nothing to offer you. I'm not good. I never will be good. All I can have is you. So please save me. Take away my sins. Rule my life. Be the boss of me. Rule my life. Even atheists, the hardest atheist, knows I fall short ultimately. I'm not perfect. I don't do everything right. There is that sense of shame and guilt we all will feel with the law of God written within us. We know we all fall short, and you're going to go somewhere with it. It's inescapable. You're either going to go to the true and living God, where you can have those things, where they were ultimately rooted, or you're going to go elsewhere. The problem is spiritual. We're at war with God. And so when that need arises within us as image of God, for joy, pleasure, peace, freedom from loneliness, freedom from guilt and shame, when that rises up, we're going to make a choice. And if we're at war with God, we're not going to go to Him for those things. We're going to go somewhere else. We're going to go to heroin for peace. What's the answer? The gospel. Confession, repentance, faith in Jesus Christ. Mortification, putting it to death. An intimate relationship with God. Renewed hearts. So here's the thing. I don't not use ecstasy today because I don't want to get caught. I would never want to use drugs and alcohol again to abuse them because watch, here's the thing. I don't want to lose any opportunity to have worship and intimacy with God. I know that it's a lie. I know that it's a fiction it's trying to sell me, and I know who God truly is and what I really have in Him. If I want joy now, I want to go to God for my joy. If I want pleasure, I want to go to Him for my pleasure. If I want intimacy, I want to go to Him for my intimacy. If I want peace, I want to go to Him. I don't want to chase it anymore because I realize that it is ultimately false worship. Just know, believer, when you pursue something else in place of God for what you can only have in God, assume the position.